Hello, everyone! So nice to have you here. I am Eric Casagrande, International Lead for Semrush, and I'm so happy to start this first live show. It's Semrush Jam Session. These live shows, we're gonna share a lot of strategies, ideas, and insights related to digital marketing, and we hope to rock and roll your marketing strategies. And please, just remember that this show it's a Q&A, so feel free to drop your comments, write down your questions that we're gonna try to answer all of them during the show. And for this first live show, I have the honor to invite Kyle Byers, my teammate here in Semrush and Director of Growth Marketing for Semrush. Kyle, please join us. How are you, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Eric. Happy to be here.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. It's our first Semrush Jam session, so it's the first show from our tourney, Kyle. So please tell us a little bit from yourself and how you end up here in Semrush.
Hey, sure. Basically, I've always loved growing companies and helping them get more customers. Before Semrush, my background was mostly as an entrepreneur. So I ran a white label SEO and PPC agency that worked with a pretty wide range of startups and Fortune 500 companies. I also co-founded and ran marketing for Exploding Topics with Brian Dean and Josh Howarth. And now I've been at Semrush for about 2.5 years. I lead two main teams at Semrush. The first one is in charge of non-brand organic search, and that's for Semrush.com. So, for example, the Semrush blog, some programmatic SEO plays, and so on. And then the other team is in charge of managing our acquired media properties and partnerships. So, for example, backlinko.com and Traffic Think Tank.
Cool, amazing, Kyle. And so, yes, it's sure that you're gonna help us a lot with the topics that we selected for today's shows. We're gonna cover, guys, Google AI overviews. That was an update from the last month, and also the Google leak documentation that happens just a few weeks after that release from the Google AI overviews. So stay tuned that we're gonna cover all those topics. And just mention here Manu Sharon that's just mentioned about link builders in the comment. We're gonna cover this topic later during our show. And William, thank you. Stay tuned that we're gonna also cover your questions. Feel free to write anything here. Kyle, so going and starting with our first topic. Google did a very important update so far, let's say that it's a very important update, which is Google AI overviews. Can you tell us a little bit more what that is and how it changed or not the SEO perspective and our work as SEO to rank content and everything?
Sure. From a rankings perspective, the AI overviews don't necessarily change too much when it comes to traditional rankings, but they do present a new opportunity, which I'll talk about in a minute. First, though, as kind of an overview, no pun intended, AI overviews are basically what they sound like. They're AI-generated summaries that show up at the top of the Google search results for some queries. It's a minority of searches at this point. But they're designed to basically help users get a quick answer or the most important information about whatever topic they're researching, whatever they searched for. They started off as a beta feature, and back then it was called Search Generative Experience, or SGE, and that was last year. But you only saw them until recently. You could only see them if you had opted into the beta feature through Google Labs. But then last month, it was big news when Google actually started to roll them out to all US users and also promised to roll them out to more countries by the end of the year. So that's why they're such big news right now, is because they've gone public with it. And in a little bit more generally, the reason why they're such a big deal is because they take up that top part of the search engine results page. That top part, the top position is usually what gets the most clicks by far. Maybe 25 to 40% of the clicks through organic search goes to the top position. So if you're talking about replacing that with an AI overview, that's going to have a pretty big impact on the search results pages where they're showing up.
But Kyle, can we say so that this overview, this answer on top of SERP, would be like an evolution from what we know as a feature snippet? It's just a feature snippet on, let's say, on steroids, or a boosted feature snippet. Can we say like something like that?
Yeah. Actually, that's how I often describe them to people, is that it's kind of like the next step after featured snippets. Although ironically, a lot of times you see a featured snippet and an AI overview on the same SERP, which is interesting. But there are definitely parallels. When featured snippets came out, I think that was like a decade ago now that featured snippets first came out, and people in the industry at the time thought it was going to be the end of SEO. Oh, Google's taking so much real estate here and no one's ever going to click through on these. Well, now a lot of tools basically just treat those, and a lot of SEOs treat the featured snippet as the number one search position, ranking position, because that's kind of the effect that they end up having. It reduces click-through to some extent, but it's still very valuable real estate. And the same thing is true with AI overviews.
I see. And could we considering the AI overviews perspective, that we should think to rank on those answers as we think to rank on feature snippet? Can we see the same logic probably here? So if I rank into feature snippet, I will probably rank and my content will probably appear on the AI overviews answers.
Not always. Sometimes that happens. I think it's about half the time. If there's a featured snippet with an AI overview above it, then the same web page is cited in the AI overview. So it's not a guarantee. And then also some proportion of the time, what is cited in the AI overview doesn't actually show up anywhere in the top 10 ranking positions below it, which is pretty interesting. And we basically think in the industry at this point that's because of the way that the AI overviews are generated, right? So it's generative AI. It's not the same thing where Google is grabbing the information from a web page and then transposing it onto the SERP and showing just a small snippet of it. Instead, AI overviews basically take the information that that Gemini knows, Google's LLM, and turns that information LLM style using generative AI to generate an answer, and then it tries to find sources that support what it's saying. So to show up as a source, you're not actually necessarily being cited by Google, but instead it's more like this website, or this web page rather, also says the same thing. So if you want to optimize for the AI overview, one thing that appears to be working right now is to match your content pretty closely to what the existing AI overview is already saying.
Oh, that's nice. That's a hot stuff. That's a very nice tip to those who are creating content. And another point regarding AI reviews still, Kyle, it's that we saw that a lot of those answers from the tests are more related on answering informational searches, like with informational keywords. If we plan to rank on top, should we consider to keep optimizing and creating content that attends information intent of search, or should we also consider more other kind of intent, like transactional, so we can leave the AI overviews with the information answer and rank our domain for transactions or commercial intents of keywords? How do you see that?
I would definitely go after both still. Even if AI overviews, well, first, as I mentioned, it's still a minority. It's well under 10% of queries that AI overviews are actually showing up for. So 90+% of the time, they're not having any impact on a given keyword's click through. But even beyond that, people are clicking through on those cited sources. And according to Google, you can actually get more click through on those than you get from the natural rankings down below. Now, in my opinion, there's good reason to be a little skeptical of that claim, but still, there's definitely going to be value to showing up there. And there's also going to be value to showing up in position 2, 3, 4, 5, etc., just like there always has been. So I certainly wouldn't avoid going after those informational queries.
Cool. Amazing, Kyle. Just saying hi. We have a lot of people connecting here in our live from Bogota, from Bangladesh. Nice to see you guys here. Feel free to drop your question for Kyle that we're gonna answer all of them later on our show. Kyle, another thing that we also hear a lot regarding these Google updates in general, not just this last one, is that content quality and actually a high quality content still is the main and the most important assets when we are trying to rank or get visibility for our domain. Do you agree with that? That it doesn't matter actually which update we are talking about. High quality content, information that actually helps our user is the main asset for ranking and get the visibility on our nowadays, let's say.
Yeah, I would say that's true. You still need the foundation of technical SEO. Backlinks also matter quite a bit still as well. If you have the best content in the world, but it's not crawlable and not indexable, you're never going to rank well with it. So those things also matter too. But high quality content is definitely important. And specifically, I would say, when you think about high quality content, think about what content is going to fulfill the needs of the user, of the search user. So whatever they're searching for that you want to rank for, how can you scratch that itch? How can you scratch that itch quickly? How can you scratch that itch comprehensively, accurately? Also follow the guidelines around EEAT, those kinds of things. But in general, yes, high quality content, very important.
Do you have any tip, Kyle, on how are you actually perhaps a secret from your side, how you are doing your SEO strategies and running them, perhaps with AI tools that can help you on boost your agility or even your results on the SEO perspective? How are you dealing with AI resources for that?
Sure. So I'll start this off, I guess, with two kind of laughably basic recommendations when it comes to AI and SEO. The first recommendation I would say is use it, use AI, because a lot of people still don't. And then the second thing is still apply your human expertise. And by that I mean as an SEO or as a business owner, as someone who understands your customer base, or as a content creator, as a researcher, all those things, as an editor, you still need that layer of human expertise, because a lot of people who are using AI are trying to use it to take humans out of the equation. And that's not necessarily a great idea, because generative AI can hallucinate, doesn't necessarily have great judgment when it comes to content. And it also isn't great at adding unique information, when we're talking about information gain in your content. So those are kind of the two very basic, like I said, laughably basic recommendations. But in terms of like tools, at Semrush, we have a variety of really great AI tools that can help. So Content Shake for content, also SEO Writing Assistant for content, Semrush Copilot, Personal Keyword Difficulty Score, which we recently launched. Those are all really great AI tools that you can use to improve your SEO.
Cool. So guys, we do have a demonstration here from a tool that can actually help you on building high quality content and fit those ideas that Kyle just shared. Let's show on screen how we can use SEO Writing Assistant here from Semrush. This is a very short demo on how to use SEO Writing Assistant here from Semrush. This is a great tool to optimize your SEO content, your content to SEO, and be sure that you're gonna rank in the near future with the content that you want to write. So I have prepared this content here before our live. And the first thing that you need to do here is to find and add the keywords that you want to use, which are these ones for my text: hiking in California, best hiking trails in California, Yosemite National Park. The tool already suggests more keywords that I could include, and those keywords came from the top performing articles already published in the internet. So here we have our text, and let's say that I want to optimize for one of these keywords, time of the year. So which might be a very important information. I will add here this part, time of the year, a sentence that include this keyword and this information. And I can see that our grade, our score here already improved from 7 to 7.5. And I can do it little by little for each one of those topics and have a better score, a better optimized content. Regarding readability, we can improve this changing some paragraphs to splitting them, or changing some words, some sentences, simplifying them. So let's start with this one. I can just split it, and then we have a short paragraph which will be easier to our audience to read the article. We have more long paragraphs here, can split, the same here, let's split. And also we can simplify some of the sentence. Let's see this sentence here. The tool based on AI simplify this sentence in a way that probably it's better. I can accept, reject, or try again. And always I can optimize and rewrite any part of the text. Finally, remember that you can use this tool in Google Docs, just adding a Finally, remember that you can use this tool in a Google Docs, just adding the plugin. That's it, guys. Let's switch back to our live with Kyle Byers. That's it, guys. And who is watching us? Did you know this tool already? Please feel free to drop down in the comments if you like SEO Writing Assistant and if you found it's useful for writing down your content. Just remind you that we are here with Kyle Byers, Director of Growth Marketing from Semrush, and we are covering two topics. We just talked about AI overviews, and now we're gonna talk about one of the, let's say, the hardest points, the hardest topics that everyone was talking in the last few weeks, which was the Google leak documentation. Kyle, did you have the chance to check some of those, I don't know, 2,000 pages that was shared regarding this leak?
Yeah, it's been very exciting over the last month after this came out. Yes.
Cool. Again, Kyle, tell us a little bit, what was that document? And we know that it was shared by Randy Fishing. And so what is that document? Is actually ranking factors from Google, or is just a direction or a perspective from those factors? What is that actually?
Sure. So as you said, it's I think it's about 2,600 different files of internal API documentation from Google. And so yes, it contains references to thousands of different ranking features, they call them. It's interesting because some folks who have not been in SEO for that long, perhaps, or even some who have been, think of this as not really that important of a leak, because it's not like a list of prioritized ranking factors where Google says, do this, do that, do this, do that. You know, that's not the kind of documentation we ran into here. But instead, we did run into miles of information about, you know, what particular factors are considered when it comes to rankings, including things that Google has historically always been very cagey about, and in some cases actually denied that they even pay attention to. You know, there have been times where they've dropped hints or told us specific things that they do pay attention to, but other times they've said, this isn't something that we care about, like domain level authority. We don't pay attention to that at all, they've said. But the SEO community has observed over time that that doesn't appear to be true. And these documents, one of the things that they seem to have confirmed for us is that Google was probably not telling the full truth when they said that, because they do appear to have domain level authority factored in when it comes to rankings.
Oh, yeah, that was the big point that everyone was commenting. And Kyle, honestly, from your side, did you feel a little bit, let's say, trade from Google for regarding that information that you were thinking to do, and you were doing a lot of optimization for so many time, and now you see that, okay, Google has some domains that it's his favorite? Did you felt a little bit, oh no, I didn't like to know that? How did you feel regarding that?
Well, I've kind of always been in the camp of Google's Google's actual words around what they do and don't do. I've taken those as one input, one data point, but not necessarily as the authority on what they're actually doing. No single person at Google actually even understands all the ranking algorithms that come into play. And so, especially when you've got, I mean, it's proprietary technology, it would be very far against their best interest to share at detail, with real transparency how everything works. So I never really expected them to be completely honest and open about everything. But it was a little strange seeing certain things that they previously denied. Specifically, like I mentioned, the domain authority, as well as or domain level authority score type of situation, as well as user behavior signals in Chrome. We learned actually last year in the antitrust lawsuit that they definitely factor in user behavior. And now we know from this leak that they do so using the Chrome browser, which is really interesting because it means it's not necessarily triggered just based on, okay, someone searched for what is SEO and then they clicked through to Semrush. And then did they stay on the Semrush site or did they come back to Google to click on something else? That's called pogo sticking. And we used to think that that was one of the main things that Google used in terms of user behavior to understand what should rank where. And that still may be the case. But now that we know that they are using Chrome user behavior, that means that people could be impacting rankings of web pages even when they click through an email link or a social media link or even a PPC link. And then what they do on the website, if they're using the Chrome browser, could be impacting how high quality Google considers that web page for ranking for different keywords.
Yes, that's also another very important point. Just reminding everyone, guys, we have people from all the world here. It's so nice to see you here. We have Donald calling from Nigeria. We have people from Colombia, from India, from Bangladesh. So nice. I'm calling from Brazil. Kyle, it's actually in Italy. It's from the United States, but it's living in Italy. So it's just how about Semrush? It's a very global company trying to cover all the languages. Remember that we have the huge database for keywords for a lot of languages and countries. So feel free to use and cover all those regions that you are watching us from. So nice. And Kyle, coming back to the Google Leak documentation, you mentioned the domain authority and also the Google Chrome factor, but can we find one single rank factor that we can see, okay, this is a very important point that it was not clear, and now we can actually see, okay, this might be a very important rank factor that we know now after the Google leak? What is the main rank factor that we discover from this documentation?
In terms of new things that we didn't really know had an impact, one of them for me is definitely unlinked mentions. So this was something we've had some theories around this in the SEO community in the past. Basically, like co-citation, or when a brand is mentioned next to a given term, that it may cause this relationship, according to Google, by this brand is now related to SEO or whatever the topic might be. But from these docs, we can see that unlinked mentions are actually weighted in a bunch of different ways to impact rankings, most likely. And so that's one thing where just having a mention of your brand on a page about some topic may help improve your rankings when it comes to that brand's website going for those types of topics. There are a bunch more. I could list out several more if you want, but that's probably the first one that comes to mind aside from what I already said.
Cool. And actually, we have a point here already starting to answer some of the questions from Manu Sharon, which asked for help regarding the link building. And I will connect that question from one information that we also got from the Google documentation leak, which is the authority from the links. And by the end, we remember and we understood again, actually, we just confirmed that link building it's something really important that actually matters. So Kyle, considering the documentation, also the study from Semrush, which also mentions the rank factors, which pointed that link building and domain authority, it's one of the things that helps domains to rank higher on Google. What would be your main advices for Manu and for everyone who is listening to us regarding link building and SEO strategy?
In terms of within the context of the Google leak, I would say think about what links are going to drive user behavior and not just an increase in authority score or insert favorite metric here. Since Google is weighting Chrome user behavior in Chrome, I think it's likely that when you build links from publications, from websites that actually have people click through those links, those are likely to drive more value for you than links that basically no one's ever going to click, even though they might be on pretty important domains. So that's probably the big takeaway that I've had from this leak. That and the unlinked mentions thing, right? It's been a common link building technique to try to get any unlinked mentions turned into links. You do outreach to someone, to a website owner who has mentioned your brand, and try to get them to link to your homepage or whatever. That's a common thing, and that's still okay to do. But it might be even more valuable to try to spur more of those unlinked mentions, even if they remain unlinked. It's not like they have no value whatsoever unless they're linked. They already have value for you just having the mention.
Nice. That's really nice, Kyle. Also, guys, remember that we have in the description here on YouTube, you can access the study from Semrush related to rank factors. So feel free to download the PDF and find out a little bit more from that study, which help us to find and understand about the ranking factors. It's not the Google Leak documentation, but it's also a database study, which can help you a lot. Kyle, we know also that you have an amazing SEO course here in Semrush, which is SEO Principles. Actually, we have that course in English, Italian, and Spanish. So tell us a little bit more about that course and what you actually explain on that, and if it can help the users while we select a little bit more questions here to answer.
Sure. So that course, I believe I shot that last year. It covers, it gives a really wide range of coverage of different topics in terms of SEO. I think it's only about an hour and a half long. So it's a nice brief overview, but it's also very actionable for anyone starting out, especially. It goes into a little bit of technical SEO, on-page SEO, content, also link building, and it's a great jumping off point if you are just starting an SEO, or you're in a management position where you need to manage an SEO specialist and you're not quite sure exactly what they should be doing, perhaps, or if you're already good at some parts of SEO but not others.
Cool. So just remember, you can also find that link down in the description. One last question from our audience here. Animo from Bogota wrote to us regarding SEO and SMM management. So do you think we need to, Kyle, do you think we need to change and consider both strategies, or the basics remains the same after all these last updates and AI things that we are using so much on nowadays? How do you see that? The basic is still the basic, or we need to understand this new context and balance better regarding other strategies as well?
I suppose I would say both. The basics remain the basics. SEO remains an incredibly high ROI opportunity for businesses, but it's also true that you need to stay on top of the changes. AI overviews, the information we got from the leak, the changing competitive landscape, all these things are important to keep in mind so that you can continue to compete.
Cool. We also have another question here from Bishal Sasha, regarding actually it's a comment regarding technical and on-page and off-page SEO. How do you see that? We still need to balance both, or as the content becomes more relevant, we need to focus more on on-page SEO? How do you see this balance of strategies, all of those pillars from SEO?
All three are still important. Technical SEO and on-page SEO are probably the more important if you had to choose only 2 out of 3. But off-page is also quite valuable if you're going for anything. If you're going for any competitive terms or high volume terms, then off-page would be quite important. But this person sounds like a great person to check out that course because I have that overview of all 3.
Amazing. So that's the main tip for our live show. Follow up and subscribe to Kyle's course down here in the description. Kyle, we are unfortunately finishing our show here. It's just 30 minutes. Please, let's say your final words and your final advice regarding all we have chat about it. And thank you so much for joining us and sharing all your knowledge regarding AI overviews, Google leak documentation, and those insights from the show.
Thank you so much, Eric. It was great to be here. Everyone, I would just encourage you to, please share your learnings as you work in SEO and as you apply what we just talked about. Share with the community, talk about what you're doing and what's working and what's not, and we can all help each other.
Cool. Amazing, guys. Thank you so much for joining us here in Semrush Jam Session. This was our first live show. We're going to have that more often, so stay tuned and subscribe on our YouTube channel to get the updates and follow up us here as well. See you around and rock and roll.